It's a bit of eye contact, eh? Bless you.
It's a pretty intense eye contact. God, I missed.
Kia ora, everyone. Welcome to Politics in Full Sentences, your weekly podcast discussing current affairs and politics of the week. Joining with me today is the leader of the ACT Party and MP for Epsom, Mr. David Seymour.
Good afternoon.
And alongside him is the Deputy Leader of ACT, Ms. Beth Holbrook. Welcome.
Hi, everyone.
Now, we've got a couple of things that we wanted to speak about, but let's jump to the latest news in the media. David, first of all, I want to congratulate you on passing the second reading of the End of Life Choice Bill. Beth, I'd like to refer this to you. How are you feeling about this?
Oh, I'm first of all, I'm incredibly proud of David, and I just want to take this opportunity to acknowledge the amount of commitment, the tenacity and the principle that David has shown, and the bravery, really, to get this bill to this stage. No, truly, I'm very proud of it. And as someone who was acquainted with the bill from really, really early on, my initial reaction was apprehension. And over a long period of time, I've had an opportunity to talk to David about the bill and about the details of it and listen to the debate. And probably about 12 months ago, I started to become a convert, and I'm fully supportive of the bill now. Pleased to say.
Oh, good.
Thank you. David, I heard yesterday, there was a bit of an underhanded compliment even from, dare I say, Judith Collins, where she acknowledged the great work that you've done. And I think very important that also the listeners recognize that you actually gave up a ministerial role in order to see this bill pass into law. Yeah,
well, I'd forgotten about that until Judith brought it up. So in a way, being reminded is kind of a bit of a bugger, really. But look, I think you go to politics to try and make better laws, and hopefully we'll be able to do this. And I just realised at the time I could do more by advancing this bill than I could going from an undersecretary to being a minister, which wouldn't really change my practical ability to do anything. Look, it's an important bill, and I also think that you got to acknowledge it's been a really good team. I've had some great staff in my office that have worked on it. We've got a fantastic team of MPs from all different parties who are working on it. Matt Vickers and Lucretia Seal's legal team that did the Seals versus Attorney General. So it's actually quite a range of people that have been working on it, and so far so good, but there's a long way to go. Yeah,
David, you've I think partly answered my question. Look, I guess what's the next process, and what's motivating? I have a coffee group chat every morning, and this was one of the hot topics that came up. Some arguably very religious, very Christian. And one of the things that they said was, it has to be that individual's choice. And please correct me if I'm wrong, that's exactly what this bill is about.
It's kind of funny because some people say that it's about freedom and other people say it's about compassion. And I think that's a false dichotomy. The reason that we in ACT believe in freedom is because it is compassionate to let people chart their own course in life. We believe in freedom because every person is unique, every person has a special perspective on the world, and it's inhumane to deny them that. And we apply that across a whole lot of policy areas. It's just this particular one of, should you be allowed to ask somebody to help you end your life your way, is particularly emotive and personal. But if you think about it, it's not really a lot different from any of our other positions that, you got one shot at life and you should be able to live it your way so long as you're not hurting someone else.
Thanks, David. Thanks. Now, the other hot topic for the week is, unless, you've been completely avoiding the mainstream media, it would be impossible to avoid the topic of Israel Folau, in particularly, the GoFundMe page that got pulled down. And I want to touch on also later on.
I've tried to avoid it.
You tried to?
I've tried to avoid it for months. That was a story that I wasn't taking a lot of notice of. But you're quite right. Unless you've been living under a rock, you couldn't.
Do you think Israel Folau is being denied his right to freedom of speech?
I don't know that I see it as a free speech issue yet. What I think is happening is from what I understand, he's in breach of his contract with Rugby Australia, so that's a contractual arrangement, as is the contractual arrangement that his wife has with Netball New Zealand. So it is up to those parties to have that discussion. Obviously, we've got this court of public opinion about what he said.
Yeah.
That's a separate thing. Where it may become a free speech issue is when people demand that the government do something about it. Then it becomes a free speech issue. At the moment, hey, look, we're all free to debate it, and that's great.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, I guess another question that's been raised is, shouldn't private businesses like GoFundMe, I guess Qantas, ANZ, would they not be allowed to associate or not associate with people as they wish? And is there a prejudice there towards if somebody's beliefs they choose to display them widely and quite as who they are? This is what I believe in. Should they be vilified for that?
Well, I mean, in this particular case, he's a rugby player, and modern rugby players are not just there to tackle and score tries. I mean, they're a product, and they're basically in the entertainment business. So, of course, it matters that people look up to them and aspire to be like them and want to pay lots of money to watch them play. You're kidding yourself if you think the job of a modern professional sports person ends when they get off the field, and that's why they have contracts, as Beth says. I mean, I just see this as a private matter. But also, I mean, imagine, if you will, just take what Beth said a moment ago. Imagine if we actually had British-style hate speech laws. Imagine if Israel Folau had a knock on the door from the police saying, hey, sexuality is a protected characteristic that you have attacked and belittled, and we are now going to give you a warning, or maybe to take you and detain you, as some people have been in the UK. Then it would be a very different issue. And funnily enough, the guy would be much more of a martyr than he's already becoming. So look, I think,
is that what you're trying to avoid with this new legislation?
Absolutely. Because if we don't start defining the free speech debate in New Zealand, the opponents will.
That's right.
And the only other thing I'd say is that, while I have a view about what the government should do, the other reason I want to live in a free society is so that I can have an opinion. And my opinion is that, look, the guy's views are pretty nutty. I think they're laughable. But,
mind you, I think one of the things a lot of people forget about is that there was a whole list of people that were going to hell, from liars to cheaters.
Well,
look, I mean, I can honestly say I've lied in my life and made mistakes, and I think it'll be a hell of a party because we'll all turn up in hell together.
It'll be you and the liars and the cheaters and who knows who else. But here's the thing, though. I find it really distasteful the way a whole society has piled on a guy and then started attacking his spouse, attacking someone's family in public life. I think that's a big no-no. I'm really glad we don't do that in New Zealand politics. But, we've sort of got almost this Lord of the Flies type beat-up. And to see a big group of people start persecuting an individual, I don't think that. I think they should be allowed to do it. They're not breaking any laws by doing it. But it's pretty distasteful, and it certainly lowers my opinion of GoFundMe, for instance.
It reminds me actually of a movie I just watched a couple of nights ago, and it was set in Spain, and it was about in the turn of the century, early 1900s, of a lesbian couple.
Okay.
And the villagers came out literally with pitchforks. So this is your modern day villagers raging with pitchforks, but almost in reverse.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting one.
I just thinking many things when you're saying that. But anyway,
I mean, another valid question that was put to me before the show was that isn't this just a marketplace of ideas working as it should? Israel Folau made his views known, and people are responding. Isn't this what we want? What's the problem?
Yeah, no, look, that's my basic view. There's no problem here. The laws are correct. But, I got a personal view. I think the way people are going after him is distasteful. And
that's right.
I think the behaviour and attitudes of a lot of people, instead of saying, he's a bit kooky, what a silly thing to say, have been really quite vicious and nasty and persecutory against him. I don't like that.
Yeah. Look, I know a lot of people say, oh, look at the effect. They're supposed to be role models. And as you correctly pointed out earlier,
Yeah.
they're not just limited to playing rugby. They are role models. So there is a sense of responsibility, which I guess in modern day employment law, it's protected by that contract. So it'll be an interesting one to see. So we'll keep an eye out on that one. No doubt we'll be touching on that subject in the weeks to come. Now, I want to go back to get on to our next topic, which is to do with the gun buybacks. I did hear that they spent 5 hours creating a price list. Why is the government moving so quickly on this? And does it show contempt to the gun community, the way they're...
Well, look, I'm just proud that ACT is the only party that voted against these stupid laws, and they're stupid not so much because of their underlying purpose and intention. The gun laws did need to change. They're stupid because they were rushed through, ill thought out, and they're now going to backfire. Because I just don't see how you're going to get $168 million and get in return for that all of the semi-automatic weapons that are out there. So, I think there's going to be an uptick in the number of black market weapons out there as a result. Where that will end up being less safe than we were on March 15 as a result of this idiotic showboating on the part of the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
So the government's essentially confiscating property. I mean, what would be a reasonable compensation in your view?
Oh, well, if I was a gun owner, particularly someone that has bought one of these weapons recently, I'd be pretty pissed off at not getting full price for it. That's only natural. And not only that, I probably have purchased, some of these accessories as well to help keep that gun in a secure place. And then they're going to be worthless to me now too. But the longer it takes for them to sort this out, the higher the value of the guns become on the black market.
Yeah,
So you get a diminishing supply that may fall into the hands of people who have, nefarious intentions.
Is it an option for the government to actually slow down, consult with the community, consult with the experts? Is that still an option for them?
Well, no, because the Prime Minister said every gun used will be banned in 10 days or whatever. So they have put this pressure on themselves.
Yeah.
And it's possible to do it right and give people market value compensation, I guess, but not in the time frame they expect. It's just creating lawlessness. But what connects these issues together is the idea of individuals having some basic rights and freedoms versus the mob. And that's what's happened with this Israel Folau situation, is that, okay, kooky views, not someone I agree with, but it's a pile-on by the mob. Same thing with gun owners. I'm not really a gun person. I've only fired a gun a couple of times in my life. But, they've been persecuted and vilified and actually criminalised, even though, one guy who wasn't even from New Zealand is the only person who was guilty. And I think people are increasingly worried about this kind of Lord of the Flies mob culture. That's what's getting me.
We saw that only a few weeks ago when the Coleridge Grumman thing happened, and you referred to it as a menace to freedom. I mean, more or less the whole parliament piled on.
Oh, they went mental. Yeah, the media.
That's it's the same thing in a different scenario, isn't it? Would that be a fair comparison, David?
And look, and what we're standing for is the opposite. Is the idea that the individual, some of us a bit quirky, are allowed to have views, and we're allowed to express them, and we don't expect everyone to shut up and listen to us, but we deserve to at least be respected as an individual and as a person that's allowed to have views. Now, I think increasingly we're seeing that you're kind of not allowed to do that, and if you get on the wrong side of the mob, you can really get persecuted.
I mean, you were called the fueling white extremism, and and God called her, and I was actually flabbergasted, and you hear that. It's really quite interesting. As you said, there is that sort of mob mentality, and I know you've used the term intolerant left a few times. But look, I guess getting back to the gun events, look, the gun buyback rather. Is it true that the plan is to conduct sort of large public events with media presence? I mean, is this actually effective, or is it more political theatre? Which, you know, I can only assume this will be shown all over the world as, look what New Zealand did, just like
Look,
that.
you'll have big queues of people with guns. You have the army there who'll also have guns. You have the police will be out there with their rifles, and it'll make great TV.
What a spectacle.
Yeah, and look, this is someone said to me the other day. You know, Jacinda Ardern runs this government like a PR firm.
Yeah.
But she is
It's
a
a-
great
it's a-
talker. I saw her on
Yeah.
LinkedIn too, and she sells the worst news in a beautiful manner.
Yeah.
And
Was she on
and-
LinkedIn?
Yeah, she was on LinkedIn.
Oh man,
that's
she's
it.
even reaching people that
Yeah.
work for a living. So, look, she's but she's basically running this like a series of very effective PR stunts. You know, there's the Queen with the korowai. You know, her daughter's first birthday. There'll be this
Yeah.
gun buyback thing. You know, it's a series of very well choreographed media events.
Yeah.
Which I guess at one level I really admire,
Hmm.
but it's not the level that we expect from a Prime Minister.
Yeah. Look, I had this interesting topic this morning. I know we're kind of digressing a little bit, but I really want to talk about it because she talks a lot about feeling and this state of being as a good feeling. I agree with that. I genuinely do. And I said to the guys, coffee morning talk, and what about the feeling that you get from being free and empowerment of actually achieving things for yourself and going out saying, I've built something, look at this, I can sell this, I can make money off it. I remember the feeling I got off when I first paid off my student loan. Freaking great, you know. It's an amazing feeling. I mean, that in itself is the feeling of empowerment. And how do we get, what is a challenge? I mean, that's a challenge for Act 2, to get people to think more along those lines, to get people to feel a sense of ownership and empowerment.
That's a good point, Ruan, and it's the language that we're hearing now about well-being and feeling and everything. You know, there is a home for that language for Act 2, and it is around achievement and aspiration and self-determination and autonomy and freedom. We can own that language too, and use it ourselves.
Because one of the predicaments I always see with ACT is where actors seem to be making the most difference. I mean, I look at what you guys done with charter schools. Amazing, you know. There's more than 2,000 kids' lives that you've, effectively changed for the better. Yet that's not really at least not in the mainstream media, is not your political arena. That sense of empowerment, I really do wish you all the best in getting that message across to a wider audience and to all of New Zealand. Look, with that, I think we've covered off most topics, and I wish you all the best. Thank you for joining me on Politics in Full Sentences, and
Thanks,
I
Ruan.
look forward to talking more in the coming weeks.
It's
Fantastic.
enjoyable.
Thank
See
you.
you
See you
soon.
later.
Thanks, everyone.
Are we still live?